Welcome to the Afri-Culture Concepts YouTube channel, where we not only focus on African history, but we focus on African anthro and paleontology in order to understand things about African human history that most channels that are racially biased tend to ignore. If you do not know me yet, I am Guido Jallo, and today we will be discussing different human variations that are indigenous to the African continent, some that may not be very numerous in modern times, and some that are still heavily represented in modern times. Then we will come to a conclusion based off of the evidence that has been presented. My views on Africanity are science-based and has no political motivations whatsoever. I will leave the link in the description so that the viewer may study it and develop their own conclusions independently. Some of these research methods may be outdated, but by viewing this content, one should be able to develop a firmer grasp on human evolution and understand how humans adapt to the geographical zones they have lived in for tens of thousands of years. First, we will start with Africa, north of the Sahara, gradually move further south into the Sahara, later go into the dry and wet African savanna regions, then go on to the tropical rainforest regions of the African continent, finally reaching the southernmost extremities of the African continent. While doing that, we will cover very old human variations to all of those regions, up to the modern-day variations we see currently. First will be the Euro-Africanate, Atlanto-Mediterranean prototype, relatively old, present in early Natufians and European as well as North African megalith builders, spread across the Mediterranean since the Mesolithic until antiquity. Today common in Portugal, eastern Spain, Egypt, Valencia, Liguria, western Switzerland, Wales, Croatia, North Algeria, Morocco, and Canary Islands. In Mesopotamia, more diluted and transitional to Proto-Irani. Light brown skin, straight to curly, usually dark brown hair. Rather tall, ecto to mesomorph, brachymesoscelic. Dolichocephalic, mildly hypsocranic with a straight, sometimes depressed and leptorine nose. Face coarse and long, deep-set eyes, cheekbones often wide, significant brow ridges, mild prognathy common. Next, we have the gracile Mediterranean. Mediterranean proper, smaller than other Mediterraneans, the most gracile type of Europe. Appears first in Mesolithic groups of Palestine, Natufians, common in Iberia, southern Italy, Mediterranean islands, western France, southern Greece, northern Tunisia, and low frequencies across Europe, e.g., western Germany, SP, Rhineland-Palatinate, Ireland, Wales, southern Bulgaria to the Black Sea and the Levant. Light brown skin, straight to wavy, rarely curly, usually abundant brown to brown black hair. Rather short, meso sometimes macroskeletal, ectomorph with gracile bodily proportions, rather wide hips in women. Mesocephalic, camicranic with a protruding occiput. Oval, narrow face with refined and gracile features. Straight, hyperleptorine, not very long nose. Mildly rounded forehead. The trans-Mediterranean. Widespread Mediterranean subtype with many morphological features intermediate between Euro-Africanate and gracile Mediterranean. Possibly a gracilist Euro-Africanate that spread west through ancient migrations that lasted up to antiquity. Today common in North Africa from Morocco to Egypt with high concentrations in Tunisia and Algeria. Also in Western Arabia and Southern Iberia. Sometimes Sicily, Sardinia, Canary Islands, and other parts of Southern Europe. Light, sometimes medium, yellowish, brown skin, straight to curly brown/black hair. Often curlier than in European Mediterraneans. Medium height, mesoskeletal, ectomorph, dolicho-mesocephalic, mildly hypsocranic with an oval, often long face, big eyes, and a straight, hyper-leptorine, high-bridge nose. Facial features relatively soft, forehead slightly sloping. The Libyan, North African steppe type that is usually regarded as part of Orientalite. Although Arab invasions enhanced the Orientalite element in Africa during the 7th and 11th century, this type results from much earlier migrations and was already present in the ancient Libyan Garamantes. Still common across the steppes of Libya, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, sometimes Algeria, occasionally in the Sahara, and in Andalusia. Closely linked to Target, which can be regarded as its desert variety. Light brown skin, often wavy black hair. Rather tall, brachymesoscelic, ectomorph, dolichocephalic, camicranic with a round occiput. Long face, dark eyes, big mouth, and an often convex, hyperleptorine, and prominent nose. The interorbital distance is relatively small. Features are much finer than invertebrate. Next is the most highly debated Egyptid. Libyan variety, typical for the Nile Valley of Egypt, may result from ancient South/West Asian migrations that mix with native Berberites. In its purest form found in Egyptian Copts, in lower frequencies in Muslims of Egypt, North Sudanese, and Libyans. Relative frequency has been reduced during the last centuries as the frequency of other types in Egypt has increased. Light brown skin, wavy or curly black hair. Medium height, mesomorph to ectomorph, mesoskeletal. Dolichocephalic, often orthocranic. The eyes are big and the mouth relatively wide. Leptorine, sometimes convex nose. Features show some degree of robustness, often intermediate between Orientalid and Berberid. The African Alpinoid, the most brachycephalic Maghrebi type, shows close morphological similarities to alpines and in a lower degree to armenids and Berberids. Probably not directly related to other alpines, but the result of a similar adaptation. Common in the Atlas Mountains of Algeria and Tunisia. A subvariety exists on the island of Jerba, extends in lower frequencies across Libya, Egypt, and Morocco. Light brown skin, straight or wavy brown to black hair, usually dark, sometimes mixed eyes. Medium height, mesoscelic, endomorph. Rather brachycephalic, orthocrenic with a leptorine, straight or convex nose. Features more angular than in other alpinids. Deep set eyes. The Berberid, a Proto-Atlanto-Mediterranean type originally named after Berbers in the North African Barbary. Associated with Paleolithic types that once migrated from West Asia. Present in modern Berbers like Rifians, Kabyles, Chilha, Chawi, also other North Africans, e.g. Tuareg, Emirads, and natives of the Canary Islands. A minority type in other parts of Europe, Sb, South Iberia, Perigord, and Turkey. Light to medium brown skin, curly wavy, brown to black hair. Rather short, mesoscelic, meso to endomorph, dolichocephalic, chemi-orthocrenic, mildly leptorine, sometimes mesorine nose, often with a depressed bridge. Face coarse and wide, significant zygomatic arches, intraorbital distance great, sometimes slanting / pseudo-mongoloid eyes. Jaw heavy and angular, arches marked. The Canarid, Maghrebi type with similarities to Cro-Magnons and North Europeans, probably in part a result of convergent evolution of pre-Neolithic North Africans adapting to cloudy mountain regions, and partially of prehistoric migrations from Europe. Historically, in some areas of the Canary Islands, especially in Gomera, Tenerife, Guanches, and Gran Canaria, heavily mixed on the islands today. Also in Berbers, Rifians, Kabyles, Tunisians, and Western Libya, Jado, Nalit. Fair skin, wavy reddish, brown or blonde hair, mixed eyes. Tall, mesoscelic, ectomorph to mesomorph, mesocephalic, chemi-orthocrenic, relatively large-headed, mildly leptorine. Face broad, sometimes a bit low, large jaw, significant suborbital arches, occasional mild prognathy. Occiput round, body hair modest. The Silo, distinctive Berber type typical for the Eastern Sahara Desert, typified by the population of the Siwa and Algila oases of northwestern Egypt. In lower frequencies extends to Jayu, Libya, and other Egyptian oases, Karga. In the latter, it is transitional to the Nubian type, rare outside of the desert. Light to medium brown skin, often wavy, sometimes tight curly black hair. Rather short, mesoscelic, mesomorph to ectomorph. Hyper, dolichocephalic, chemi-orthocrenic with short face. Mildly leptorine, short and depressed nose. Body hair rather scant. Chin and brow ridges weak. The target, specialized type of the Sahara, linked to Mediterranean and Orientalid, the southern counterpart of Libya and Euro-Africanid, but more strongly adapted to the desert. The result of isolation and selection under extreme environmental stimuli, typified by the nobles of Tuareg, Imashag, who migrate through a vast, sparsely populated area, especially found in the Hagar Plateau, sometimes in Songhai and Kanuri. The name derives from the singular of Tuareg, Targi. Light to medium brown skin, often wavy black hair. Tall, brachyscelic, ectomorph with long arms. Dolichocephalic, orthocrenic with a long face, dark eyes. Mandible less shallow than in most Mediterraneans. The hybrid's nose is long, leptorine, and often hooked. Eyes occasionally pseudo-mongoloid like in some birds. The Paleo-Saharid could be the group of men that carried haplogroup P across the Sahara in prehistoric times to the Western Sahara. But due to their possible absence in the Western Sahara today, this can only be a hypothesis. Very ancient type native to the Sahara Desert. Related to Proto-Ethiopid, but possibly also shows traces of ancient Khoissanids who were more widespread during the Paleolithic. About 20% of taboos, Taita, in the Tebesti Mountains still show this type. It is also present in Dawat of Libya, in lower frequencies across the Sahara from Haritans in the Maghreb to Sudan. Medium brown, sometimes yellowish skin, curly or kinky hair. Rather short, ectomorph, mesocephalic with a coarse, round, and very low face and strong suborbital arches. Mongoliform eyes may appear, but not as strong as in Khoissanids proper. Nose platerian with a depressed root, but a hybrid. The mouth is large with not very thick lips, prognathy usually absent. The Omotic, isolated type of southwestern Ethiopia and northern Kenya, probably belonging to a group of ancient Ethiopians, probably a relic of pre-Neolithic periods. Most common in speakers of the Omotic languages, e.g. Ari/Ari, Bana, Hamar, Karo, Tormi, and Erbor. The name derives from the Omo Valley of southern Ethiopia. Dark brown skin and kinky curly hair. Ectomorph to mesomorph, brachyscelic, medium to rather tall height. usually dolichocephalic, orthocrenic, and relatively long-faced, mildly paterine nose. The lips are full and cheekbones often prominent. Body hair is scant. The Proto-Ethiopid, ancient type that inhabited the southwestern Eritrean lowlands prior to the arrival of Ethiopids, and possibly resembles early out of Africa types, was still common from Kenya to Sudan during historic times. Some individuals may give a pseudo-Australoid impression, occasionally found in Kunama and Nara, but also on Haral, Tigrada, rare in Oromo, Beja, and others. Dark, sometimes medium brown skin and kinky curly hair. Medium height, brachiocephalic, ectomorph to mesomorph. Dolichocephalic with robust, bony, and elongated facial features, and often strong brow ridges. Small-headed, the nose is straight with a relatively high back and depressive. Forehead sloping. Prognathism is relatively pronounced, in difference to other Ethiopids as well as Nilotids. The Pheasant, Saharan type combining ancient elements including barbaric with sub-Saharan elements that often entered the region during the Middle Ages. Common in Fetsanesi of South Libya, the Iravellan caste of Tuaregs, and even Haritans. Today also found in some armor in Songhai of Mali, a result of Berber invasions. Across the Maghreb, the result of Tuareg migrations and historic slave trade. Light to dark brown skin, curly to kinky hair. Medium height, brachiocephalic, ectomorph, dolichocephalic, orthocrenic, mildly paterine, relatively high nose. Faces tend to be flat and wide, prognathy very weak or absent. Occasional epicanthic folds may give a pseudo-Mongoloid impression. Mouth large with medium thick lips. The Middle Nile variation. The Middle Nile type is a contact type of the Nile Valley located in northern Sudan. Features are variable, although North African, West Asian, and Sub-Saharan elements have a long history of contact in the region. In difference to the North Ethiopic Nubians of the region, it is characterized by a combination of Sudanite and Orientalite, most common from Khartoum to Kasti and west to El Obeid, also in Kababish, Sudanese Arabs, and even Bagara. Medium to dark brown skin, relatively fair for the region, a result of Orientalite mixture. Curly to kinky black hair. Rather tall, brachiocephalic, variable body type. Dolichomesocephalic, orthocrenic, mesopaterine. Overall features appear soft. The North Ethiopid is important to remember. Ethiopid subtype that is often regarded as a northern branch of East Ethiopid, common along the Red Sea coast and the Nile Valley from Egypt to Eritrea and deep into the Ethiopian highlands. Shows some morphological affinities with Mediterraneans and played an important role in ancient Egypt. Often blends with Arabiids and Yemenids that arrived in prehistoric times. Common in the Beja, Beni Amer, Nubians, Hadendoa. More mixed in Amhara, Kababish, Egyptians, Espi, Chargo, and other Oases. Sometimes in Arabia as well. These are your ancient Nubian types. Dark, sometimes medium, bronze, brown skin, tight curly hair. Medium height to rather tall, brachiocephalic, ectomorph. Dolichomesocephalic, orthocrenic, rather small-headed. Gracile, marked facial features. The nose is mildly left-rine, high-bridged and straight or convex. Lips are full, the chin strong, prognathism is absent. The Saharan Ethiopid. Ethiopid type that was more common during the Neolithic when the Sahara was still green. Today it extends from Chad to Niger, northern Nigeria, and even Cameroon. Found in its purest form in the Tubu of the Tibesti Mountains in northern Chad. More mixed in Hausa, Iravellans of the Tuareg, Kanembu, Buduma, Zand, Fur, even Eden. Reddish-brown black skin, tight curly hair. Rather tall, brachiocephalic, ectomorph. Dolichomesocephalic, mildly hypsocranic. Nose mesorine, slightly depressed with a relatively high back. Face is broad and low with angular features. Eyelid openings are usually narrow. The West Ethiopid. Ethiopid subtype that was more widespread across the western Saharan regions during the Neolithic when the area was still a green savanna. Found from Mauritania to Senegal and from Guinea to northern Cameroon. Common in western Fulani, especially Pular speakers of mountain regions. Mixed in other Fulani, Morse, Hausa, and related people from the 15th century on. Islamization, migration, and wars caused many of these groups to become heavily admixed. Reddish medium to dark brown skin, wavy to tight curly hair. Rather tall, ectomorph, brachiocephalic, dolichocephalic with a mesorine, long, often convex nose. Lips are neither thin nor thick. Pseudo-Semitic features may appear in some individuals. Somewhat prognathous. The presence of slight prognathism in the Western Ethiopids could be evidence of adaptation to West African lifestyles, and also intermediate features that could have been introduced from marrying ancient West African food-gathering women. This Sudanite proper, widespread savanna type named after the Sudan region of West Africa, found in its purest form of Mamasi, Lobi, Dagaba, Senufo, northern Malinke, Grunsi, Songhai, and Bambara, more mixed across many regions of Western Africa, e.g., Southern Hausa, Ashanti, North Igbo, Yoruba, Morse, and many more. Dark brown, sometimes ebony black skin, usually kinky hair. Rather tall, hyperbrachyscelic, and mesomorph. Mostly dolichocephalic or mildly mesocephalic, mildly hypsocranic. Hyperplateran. The face is large with big eyes and massive bulging lips. Occiput and prognathy are usually pronounced. Body hair extremely weak. The Moorish type, relatively recent contact type of the Western Sahara, probably formed during antiquity when Aboriginal Berber populations mixed with older West Ethiopic elements. Today most common in Mauritania. Also found in Morocco, especially in coastal cities, Senegal, Mali, and Niger, typified by the Moors, although the term has been applied to different populations as well. Also in Amadi, occasionally in Tuareg or Fulani. Bronze brown skin, wavy to tight curly hair. Medium height, mildly brachyscelic, mesomorph to ectomorph. Dolichocephalic, orthocranic, and relatively low-faced. The nose is pointed and of variable width, often mildly leptorine. Lips are thick, not stabilized with variable features. That will complete part 1 of our African Human Variation series. I hope this video helped you develop a firmer grasp on African diversity and how human variation represents physical adaptation to geographic location. In some instances, similar environmental variables can cause humans to appear similar, although genetically, that might not always be the case. If you like this video and would like to see more like these, please like, share, and subscribe to help this channel reach other algorithms and grow. Please stay tuned for part 2 of African Human Variations as we travel further south of the Sahara. Thanks for watching the Afri-Culture Concepts channel.